Miss Ricky set down her paper copy of Humanity's Bloodlust Asterisk on her desk, the unexpected question from one of her students catching her off guard. "I'm sorry, could you ask that again? Is there a reason why humans are so murdery?" the Jinn student inquired, her mask adorned with intricate floral engravings, her forearms resting on the desk. "You've been discussing their wars, famous murders, coups, and even the decimation of the Demir. But is there a reason why humans are like this?" she pressed. Miss Ricky took a deep breath, glancing around the room. The same question seemed to be reflected in every student's eyes. She had hoped they would simply take the history lesson at face value. "It's a difficult question to answer, especially because of its simplicity," Miss Ricky said. She picked up a new memory cache card and inserted it into the data display on the wall. "Humanity may not be the most violent of the star's children. I'd say that title belongs to the Demir, but they are by far the most violent within the Confederation." The display flickered to life, showing a pair of young human toddlers play fighting with sticks. While the Cleen and Yorl may have predatory instincts, and the Jinn, Optisin, and Po are more prey evolved, none of them possess the same predatory drive as humans. For these societies, predatory behavior is merely a means to an end, with very few historical records of Cleen or Yorel taking distinct pleasure in what they must do to survive. Even the Nemi, despite being a predator-evolved species, become extremely distraught when taking life, even under the direst circumstances. "They're the odd-looking plant lovers, aren't they?" a Carlin student asked, her long neck adorned with human-made jewelry she'd acquired from one of the trading hubs. "Yes, and they recently got into trouble for planting human peppers," a fellow student chuckled. "Now they're black market oligarchs, dealing in seeds, and still grieving the loss of their livestock due to a simple mistake. You should see the grazing statues they've erected to mourn their animals," Miss Ricky added with a nod, stepping out from behind her desk and smoothing down her sweater. "A gift from... well, that wasn't important now. What I'm about to share with you is one of the reasons many members of the Confederation remain wary of humanity, with some even fearing them, despite having humans on our side. Ramira, please shut the door and pull down the shutters," Miss Ricky instructed. The Yorl student raised her butter yellow eyebrows but complied, closing the door and lowering the window shades. Once Ramira returned to her seat, carefully scooting her fluffy tail out of the way, Miss Ricky began, "Humanity is still considered an alarming race. They are helpful, charming, cheerful, and perhaps some of the most loyal friends you will ever make. But there's a lot of darkness beneath that friendly exterior." Miss Ricky pointed to the image of the children play fighting on the screen. Humans are biologically ingrained warriors. Male children are known to wield wooden sticks as young as 3 years old, and even younger children are known to bite, kick, play punch, or try to grapple with their parents. "They try to wield fake weapons as young as 3, a male Jinn student asked, tilting his masked head in curiosity rather than disapproval. "Why do they do such a thing? Aren't children supposed to be cared for tenderly, wrapped in soft clothing, and left to enjoy the colors of life?" A Carlin student shrugged. "We Carlins also bite at a young age, but it's more of a love bite, if anything. Even without teeth, baby humans can exert an impressive amount of pressure for their size," Miss Ricky said, switching the slide to show a line of male and female children forming a giggling skirmish line, wielding trash can lids as shields, sticks as weapons, and wearing cardboard box helmets. This picture was taken by a Po visitor touring a few human cities. He watched these children play at war, practicing formations. Later, while traveling through a heavily wooded area, he saw children wielding sticks like rifles, practicing tactical movement. Why are children being taught these things? Children are meant to grow up free of combat, to fully develop in peace, a female Yorel asked from the front, her black fur catching the light oddly. "They aren't being taught," Miss Ricky replied with a raised brow. "They learn these things simply by watching and instinctively try to mimic what they see. Children are naturally drawn to such activities, and not even humans fully understand why," Miss Ricky continued. "They call it rough and tumble play, and the majority believe it's highly beneficial for the development of their children." Before you start asking too many questions, yes, many human cultures actively encourage their children to play fight, often stepping in just before things go too far. Human parents believe this type of play builds an understanding of boundaries, knowing when too far is too far, as well as instilling courtesies and customs. Miss Riki tapped the pad on her palm, and the display pulled up the next image. The real question many of us have been pondering is why Earth is classified as a death world. There's an ongoing debate about whether this title refers to the planet itself or the creatures that inhabit it. Thousands of years of wars have honed humans into the perfect predators, beings that can break, tear, and kill when they feel the need to. But worst of all are the side effects. Side effects? A Jinn student asked, all her arms crossed in curiosity. Isn't being able to kill easily a side effect on its own? Miss Riki quickly tapped along her palm, pulling up an image of Ted Bundy on the display. Assassins and similar figures are nothing new. They kill for payment, and it's considered a profession. But there have been very few serial killers among the races of the Confederation. Usually, such individuals are quickly identified as mentally broken and eradicated. Teenley, a black-furred Yorel, perked up her ears. Yes, Miss Riki. How many murderers had your kind had over the last, say, 500 years? Miss Riki asked. Teenley closed her eyes, thinking carefully before answering. 3, no 4. I think 4 is right. Siri, how many have the Carlins had in the same time frame? Miss Riki inquired. 17, Siri responded, tapping his clawed hand on the tabletop. Ari? Miss Riki called out. The post student folded her hands thoughtfully. I believe we've had 10. The last one appeared over 30 years ago after the Federal Station massacre. Miss Riki continued this pattern, asking each student and pointing out the drastically low number of serial killers among their respective races. When she was finished, she folded her arms under her chest. This is because we are not innately a murderous group of species. Yes, we all have our issues from time to time, but we cannot be called bloodthirsty or murderous. Humans, however, in the last 500 years, have had over 10,000 serial killers, just in the unified American states alone. And that doesn't even include the European coalition, Miss Riki said, taking a strange satisfaction in the horrified expressions of her students as she dropped this bombshell. Now you might be wondering why they would kill like this, she continued. Yes, many cases involve mental breaks or other personal issues. Even our brains can short-circuit now and then. But you might also find it odd that during the war with the Dimir, these issues decreased among humans. A Jinn student raised one of her forearms. It decreased? It decreased, Miss Riki confirmed, her tone darkening as she tapped her fingers on her palm, bringing up images of humans engaging in hand-to-hand combat with the insectoid Dimir, as well as in gun battles. When humans had an enemy to fight and were fighting for a cause they saw as good or righteous, their rates of serial killings dropped nearly 70%, along with a slew of other mental and stress-related issues. In fact, many Interconfederation scholars believe the overall mood of humans rose significantly during that time. A male post-student leaned back in his chair, looking up at the display. They liked it. They did, Miss Riki said. They had no wars to wage among themselves, as they were all too advanced, and such conflicts would lead to what one human described as an unsportsmanlike slaughter. With rising mental health issues and random killings on the rise, the Confederation's request for their help came at the perfect time. It gave them a unified target on which to unleash their frustrations. Tinto ran her clawed paw along her head, a look of realization dawning on her face. Oh, I get it now. I believe you will all understand it quite soon, Miss Riki murmured. Earth, this little blue marble we're orbiting on this station, breeds the finest predators to have ever touched the stars. The stars have bred many predators, but none quite like humans, Miss Riki began. Honed over tens of thousands of years through relentless conflict, humans have become predators who hunt and kill even other predators. Even in times of peace, they continue this practice. Lawful predators hunting down and capturing rogue predators who prey on the local populace. This darkness manifests slowly, emerging from mental illness, boredom, or simply a desire to kill. My fellow scholars and I have identified 3 key types of humans, Miss Ricky said, tapping her palm to bring up 3 images on the display. One image showed a mother with a sad but defiant expression. Another was of a human soldier with a long scar on his cheek. And the third was a smiling woman dressed in an orange jumpsuit. First, we have the reluctant killer. Miss Ricky pointed to the sad-faced woman. These humans can and will kill when pushed, though they do not seek out violence. They are more aligned with the rest of us. If their child or they themselves are threatened, they lash out with a wild, primal energy. They suffer mentally afterward, but most eventually move past it. These seem quite normal. I would have assumed most of humanity falls into this category, a male opticon commented, gesturing with a claw towards the display. More than you might think, but yes, a significant portion, Miss Ricky mused. She then pointed to the soldier. Most humans, however, fall into this category, the judicial killers. These humans are true predators. They don't enjoy killing, but they can do it with ease once certain protocols are breached. Humans, despite what we may think of them, live by a relatively simple set of rules that keep them from killing. But once those rules are broken, they will snuff out life without a second thought and not lose a moment's sleep over it. To this kind of human, breaking those protocols makes you less than a beast, a monster that must be dealt with. The room fell into a contemplative silence until a female opticon tentatively raised her claw. What kind of protocols? Hurting the innocent is the easiest way to break them, Miss Ricky explained, recalling passages from human philosophy. To attack a non-combative woman, a mother, or a child is seen as the quickest way to trigger a human's violent response. The traffical incident is a prime example of this. A Carlin student leaned back, letting out a small hissing laugh. Ah, yes. When that Loran traitor slapped a human child for getting in his way. From what I understand, a female human and 2 males fractured the Loran skull so badly it looked like shattered pottery. A red-furred Yoro murmured, "I believe they beat him to death." "They did," Miss Ricky confirmed. "The female human's fury was so intense that they couldn't even pull her off the man whose child had been slapped. Tensions were high at that point, but it made many of us shrink back from humanity as the war was winding down. There are other protocols as well, such as taking property, endangering their lives, and other things that are easily avoidable. What's even more confusing is that many of these protocols aren't just attached to other humans. They extend to everyone and everything. Humans have been known to batter other species to near death over infractions against others," Miss Ricky continued. "For instance, in the Premier Market incident, a Waipal child was being harassed by a gang of PR far traitors. When a human learned of what was happening, he approached them and told them to leave the child alone. When they refused and kicked the child, the human single-handedly brutalized all 8 of the PR far, then impaled their leader on a broken stall spike when she tried to take the young Yorel as a shield. This was the first instance of human protocols escalating in real time, and it cemented the Waipal's friendship with the humans." Ms. Ricky pressed her lips into a thin line of disgust and pointed to the woman in the orange jumpsuit. "And then there are these. These are the murderers, the serial killers, the dregs of human society. These are the rogue predators who hide among the first 2 types of humans, killing for the sheer pleasure of it. Some of these humans have been offered for research, and their brains are terrifying. Killing comes naturally to them. Blood, organs, the screams of the dying, these are things of beauty to this type of human," Miss Ricky continued, her voice tinged with unease. "These acts elicit the same kind of brain response as eating ice cream or watching a favorite movie." "Company 13, a female djinn murmured under her breath. "Yes, Company 13, Miss Ricky confirmed quietly, shaking her head with a somber expression as she leaned against her desk. "The darkest chapter in human warfare. Humanity, aware of its surplus of predatory killers and seeking to empty their prisons, created Company 13. And we all witness what happens when a human is honed to its sharpest edge. Murderers and serial killers, armed with energy blades and other melee weapons, were sent on suicide missions. They decimated the Demir, cackling and howling as they went, while the regular human military forces cleaned up behind them. The attack on the Demir's secondary capital planet was spearheaded by Company 13, and they slaughtered everything in their path. Miss Riki gestured to the image of the smiling woman in the orange jumpsuit. This person, Amanda Jutt, is one of the few survivors of Company 13, and she recalls her memories of the slaughter fondly. There are other survivors who managed to steal Demir ships, but only a small handful made it past the human anti-air units. A female post-student sighed. So there are still some loose among the stars? This small handful of feral humans? For the most part, they hide well, which is terrifying in itself, Miss Riki said gravely. This is what truly troubles the Confederation. The last two types of humans blend seamlessly into normal society. You would never know you're near one unless someone breaks a protocol or they decide to kill you. Humanity's cold calculation and combat strategy eliminated nearly 95% of its imprisoned murderers, but that doesn't mean they're all gone. Miss Riki sighed deeply. Those were only the ones who got sloppy and were caught. What you may not know is that there's an ongoing shadow war among humans. The judicial predators trying to quietly hunt down and snuff out the rogue predators before they can do too much damage or stop them altogether. Worse still, these rogue predators can hide anywhere. What are you trying to say, Miss Riki? A blue opticon asked, her curiosity tinged with fear. Miss Riki drummed her nails along the top of her desk, considering her words carefully before standing up fully. The reason the Confederation is so scared of humans now, after the war, the reason you're in this class without any humans present, is that they want to arm you with knowledge. For the most part, humans are good. They are good people with big hearts and have a lot of love to give. But there's a dark shadow that looms over them day and night. Judicial human predators and rogue human predators hide seamlessly in plain sight. It's estimated that there are hundreds of thousands of rogue predators lying in wait, or so clever that they have yet to even be found. And there are likely millions of judicial predators walking among you, who could be set off by a simple mistake, leading to a path of bloodshed. Earth, for all its beauty, has created two of the most perfect predators to ever grace the stars, and their savagery is unmatched. What's most frightening is how calm they are as they go about their deadly business. Then why not get rid of them? Why not work with psychic races and root out the problem? A post-student asked, her fully colored blue eyes narrowing in concern. They can't hide from the truth of the mind. Miss Riki grinned faintly, though her eyebrows remained furrowed with concern. You would think so, but they hide just as well in the mind as they would on a crowded sidewalk. Humans are immune to mental interdiction, and they're instantly aware of it too. The more clever rogue humans even lay down false trails, leading us on wild goose chases. A crack team of investigators tried but found themselves outclassed, even by reluctant humans, who shut them out as if slamming a door. This has made the Confederation so fearful that many have started to wonder if we've accidentally opened a box we can't close again, something inside bursting out and wrapping itself around us. Miss Riki paused, her voice steady but somber. What we have to do, what all of you have to do, is understand who is walking with you, who is eating with you, and who you are talking to. Just as she was about to continue, a dull chime rang throughout the room, signaling the end of the lesson. She sighed. Miss Riki looked at her class with a thoughtful expression. We'll continue this discussion later. Class dismissed. The students gathered their shoulder bags and sling bags, looping them around their shoulders as they filed out of the classroom. Rare furrowed her eyebrows in deep thought, only to be snapped out of it when Tinley bumped her shoulder. I figured it out, Tinley said smugly, squeezing next to Ramira as a Karen slithered by. Ramira rolled her eyes. Figured what out? The odd smell we both noticed during yesterday's lesson about the Demir War, Tinley replied, gesturing towards her chest with her pawed hands. It was all over Miss Riki's sweater, and I know what it is. Ramira blinked at Tinley, not responding the way Tinley wanted her to, just waiting for her to continue. Tired of waiting, Tinley leaned in closer to Ramira's ear. Human. Ramira raised her brows, unimpressed. Interesting. but from what I've heard from my sister, their scent gets everywhere. How do you know it wasn't something bought from a human store? It would smell like a human too. It smelled like a male human, Tinley said in a frustrated growl. That has to mean something. Ramira smirked. Maybe the traitor was a human then. I agree. Tinley muttered in agreement, feeling a little deflated after Ramira's nonchalant response. How's your sister anyway? Oh, she's still down there playing with the humans. She mentioned something about something called cone ice. It sounded fun, Ramira replied, unwrapping some earth chewing gum from a foil wrapper. Our parents sent me some credits to buy her new boots and stuff. I'll be dropping by over the weekend to see her. Tinley chuckled. You might want to pack her some bandages too, or maybe some reactive healing pads. Meanwhile, in the training pits, Fryn landed face first into the sand, rolling along briefly as her dull yellow fur stuck to her protective gear, which had come flying off. Ooh, that looked painful, Himmel hissed, raising his balled fist near his chin. Zeytan hummed thoughtfully, then turned to Himmel. She's getting pummeled out there. Fryn groaned as she slowly got back onto her knees, picking up her pugil stick and slipping her helmet back on. She was fighting Renee today, who, despite her normal appearance, was beating Fryn soundly. The human had an impressive way of shifting her body weight, and Fryn could feel the impact of every hit, particularly the full-body checks. Come on, Furball, back up you go, Renee called out cheekily, twirling her pugil stick. Drill Sergeant ain't letting you off that easy. Nothing about this has been easy, Fryn muttered, brushing sand from her face as she fully stood up. She had watched the humans dominate the other races during this training, and while it was definitely toughening them up, it was still a struggle for the Yorel and Po. They were being demolished by their human counterparts, and it was becoming increasingly clear that humans were built differently. The Carlin were adapting at least, and the humans seemed to enjoy sparring with them. I can't wait for the Jinn to join us, Fryn called out, bringing her pugil stick back into a guard position. It's going to be cathartic watching them wipe those smiles off your faces. Renee and the other humans chuckled. That may be, but they ain't here yet, and you gotta land 6 strikes on me to pass. Fryn glanced over at the other battered members of her race, who were watching her intently. None of them had managed to pass either, and it was up to her to try to get a win for them. She shook her head, then slowly stepped back into the fray with Renee. The strike was quick, and Fryn barely managed to duck it, ramming the head of her pugil stick into Renee's stomach as her ears were painfully whacked by Renee's pugil. Renee stumbled back a step, coughing out a laugh as the other humans held up 4 fingers. Come on, Fryn, just 2 more, Himmel called out, slapping the wooden boards that made up the ring of the fighting pit. Zeytan glanced over at another Carlin. Looks like I was right in assuming this would be easier for us. As the Yorel trainees watched in awe, the scene unfolded with a mix of triumph and pain. Zeytan turned just in time to see Fryn land a solid hit on Renee's head. 5, the humans called out, but the strike had clearly angered Renee. With a swift, calculated move, she spun her pugil stick and lunged at Fryn. The Yorel's guard was broken by a powerful uppercut, sending her staggering backward before crashing to the ground once more. The other Yorel trainees hissed in sympathy as Fryn groaned, her tail wagging in submission as she fumbled around in the sand, her vision blurred. Renee, a male human private admonished, wiggling his finger in disapproval. That was too much. Renee scoffed. She hit me. She's supposed to hit you where she can, the private replied, crossing his arms. You were told not to hit them in the face. Before Renee could retort, Fryn's pugil stick bounced off her back. Confused, Renee turned around to see Fryn, still wobbly on her knees, having managed to land the 6th and final strike. 6! Another female human private laughed, clapping her hands. You turned your back to an enemy and she got you. Damn it, Renee spat, throwing her pugil stick to the ground. He distracted me. The voices of the trainees fell silent as Drill Sergeant Marshall stepped forward from her hidden spot among them, her brown campaign hat catching the sunlight. The privates parted to let her through, her presence commanding respect. You let yourself be distracted while the Yorel stayed on mission, Drill Sergeant Marshall said, placing her hands on her hips as she stared down at Friend. Your lack of discipline allowed you to catch a strike to the back. Friend, still dazed and smiling despite the blood trickling from her nose and mouth, nodded up at the drill sergeant. Uh-huh. You are bleeding, Drill Sergeant Marshall stated matter-of-factly. Yes, Drill Sergeant, Friend replied. You also took down a human in melee combat. How does that feel? Drill Sergeant Marshall asked. Like my face hurts, Friend answered honestly, spitting out a mouthful of blood into the sand. Drill Sergeant Marshall let out a genuine laugh, then reached down and hauled Friend to her feet. You never fail to impress me, Specialist Friend. Wait! Himmel shouted, clapping his hands. Promoted? She just got promoted. Himmel took off running around the ring, his hands held high as he circled the cheering and battered Ural trainees. Promoted! He screamed again, making another lap and slapping Zetan's arm in excitement. She's the first non-human promotion. Zetan, quickly tiring of the slapping, whacked Himmel with his still pugil pad-bearing tail. Be quiet, Himmel. She promoted? Friend asked, her mind still buzzing from the uppercut as Drill Sergeant Marshall studied her. Yes, Drill Sergeant Marshall smiled at her, because you showed the right kind of mettle. The humans all called out in unison, catching the other races off guard. Steel souls, iron hearts. They half bowed in respect to Friend, who was still confused as Drill Sergeant Marshall pulled out a black metal ring and took the pin guards off. A soul of steel that cannot be broken, Drill Sergeant Marshall said reverently, removing Friend's old rank from her right lapel and placing the new rank in its place. A heart of iron that cannot be turned. Friend blinked up at Drill Sergeant Marshall, wanting to smile. But before she could, the Drill Sergeant reared back her fist. Huh? Friend managed to say just before Drill Sergeant Marshall's fist slammed into her rank, driving the metal pins into her collarbone. Friend held up her clawed hands, curled in pain, her face twisted in agony as she screeched, yanking the pins out of her collarbone. Drill Sergeant Marshall chuckled, then held Friend still as she placed the guards onto the now bloody pins. She's official now, lads, Drill Sergeant Marshall called out, pushing the still hissing and spitting Friend towards the other human recruits. Steel and iron, they called out with whooping cheers, lifting the still cursing Friend into the air as the other races clapped and whistled in celebration. This wraps up our exploration of humanity's dual nature, the protectors and the predators. If this tale of hidden dangers and fierce loyalty fascinated you, show your support by leaving a like. Comment with the word steel if you believe in the resilience of the human spirit. And don't forget to subscribe if you want to stay informed about the complexities of the universe. Your engagement drives our mission to uncover more stories like this. Thank you for joining us on this intense journey.